Is Utah legit? No. Well, maybe. They could be, but let me just explain. So the Utah Hockey Club, who are now in Salt Lake City, they're off to a pretty good start, 3-0. They beat the Blackhawks. They beat the Islanders. Bubble team made the playoffs a couple years ago. And then they beat the Rangers in overtime as well. And that is your marker right there. And we know they came from Arizona, which the team has been playing in ASU for the past 2 years. They really haven't looked that good, but they've got some nice prospects, some nice pieces, but never were able to put a full team together. I'd like to debate that them going to Utah this summer might really, really change their organization. So let's look at their top scorers real quick. So currently in the first 3 games, they got 4 guys going pretty ham, but I'm just going to mention 3. So to start off, the top 3 goal scorers through these first 3 games, we got Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, and Dylan Guenther. And did you guys notice a trend in any of those? We got some pretty young guys here, especially with Dylan Guenther and Logan Cooley. And well, to start off with the new captain, Clayton Keller, he's got 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points in 3 games. And he's been scoring some big goals, especially that beautiful overtime goal against the Islanders. Just kidding, that was against the Rangers. That was a crazy game. Utah had been winning most of that game, honestly, and they would always go up a goal. They'd go up a goal, go up. It doesn't matter. We're talking about Clayton Keller, and honestly, he's a great fit for captain. He looks really good there. And I think since moving to Utah, Clayton Keller has always been a good player. Always been the best player, whatever team, Arizona, Phoenix, blah, blah, blah. He was always the best player. And now once they moved to Utah, you could tell that since he's got a whole state behind him now, he's really taken that captain job seriously, showing and putting what it takes to be a leader on the ice for the people of Utah. I mean, let's look at this Logan Cooley kid now. He is just absolutely flying around the ice. He makes all these dazzling moves. He spins. He just moves. He's such an agile player. He moves so fast. And you can see 0 goals, 5 assists. So he's setting up plays left and right. And man, it's really cool to see Logan Cooley going off so early. And finally, we got Dylan Guenther, Mr. Clutch, Mr. Goal. Bro has 5 goals in 3 games. In 2 games, he had 2 goals. So, I mean, come on. And then, of course, he scored that OT winner against the Islanders to put him. He got the first goal in Utah history. He just looks really, really good. And I don't know what else to say besides Dylan Guenther. He's going to stay, and he's going to be a sniper in this league for a while. It's kind of scary. All right, I want to move on to their acquisitions, and I want to talk about mainly 2. And obviously, their biggest piece they got over the summer was Mikhail Sergachev. And Mikhail Sergachev, he's a really good defenseman. We all know, just straight-up defenseman-wise, but he's such a good fit for them offensively, too. He runs their power play, and he's just a big guy with a big shot. And me personally, I didn't watch all 60 minutes of all 3 of their first games. But I did watch that first game against the Hawks, and Mikhail Sergachev, he was firing pucks on net, especially when he was running the power play. It was going through him and Clayton Keller. He looked really good, and I think that's just exactly what they needed. They didn't need to get the best Cale Makar type of defenseman, because they already got most of that on forward. They need a guy who's good defensively, good offensively, and that's what Mikhail Sergachev is. And the other guy, Kevin Stenlund, he's not the biggest piece that everyone's looking to add, but man, he just won a Stanley Cup in Florida last year. He knows what it takes, and now he's getting a little bigger role on this team, so he can teach the young guys, because there's a lot of young guys on this Utah team, but he gives them, some experience, some playoff experience. So that Kevin Stenlund, nothing crazy, but he's a good piece to add as well. And Connor Ingram, he's the last guy, and honestly, if Utah's going to make the playoffs this year, it's going to go through Connor Ingram, because the offense can score. Defense is looking better this year. They might help out offensively too. They look better defensively. Can Connor Ingram really save them and steal some games? I mean, we've seen plenty of goaltenders come out of the Arizona prospect field before they moved to Utah. They had Aiden Hill, Darcy Kemper. I mean, those 2 have won Stanley Cups, so they make good goaltenders there. And honestly, I mean, I know Connor Ingram was not drafted by them. He came over, but he looks really solid in net, especially after having a really good season last year. So We'll have to see if Karel Vejmelka and Connor Ingram can just hold the ship together, because if they have any chance of making the playoffs, the goaltending's really got to be solid. So that brings to me, can they make the playoffs? And honestly, I think they're going to make it this year, because if we look at Vegas in their inaugural season, they started their season 3-0, and you could just see the momentum from having such a good start to a beginning of the season where no one expects you to do anything. I think that's why Vegas was able to do what they did, go all the way to the Cup final. Just that momentum at the beginning of a season really, really helps. And we can kind of see that with Seattle. I believe they went 2-1 maybe their first 3 games the year they went to the playoffs. Again, after a really bad first season, no one had any expectations on them. Who knows? The problem is, who are you going to beat out in the Central? The Central looks pretty good. I don't think you're knocking Winnipeg or Colorado or Dallas off, so you kind of have to go in through a wild card. And who is that going to be? Is that going to be Nashville? Are you going to beat Nashville out? Are you going to beat the Blues out? I don't know. It's going to be hard, but if Utah can keep their momentum from the beginning of the season, they could and will have a really good opportunity to at least make the postseason, and the fans of Utah will really like that. Follow NHL Bendy on Instagram and subscribe, boy.